In this video of the Historic Ordnance series, we're going to be looking at a Romanian anti-tank mine. What you're looking at is the MAT-76 or MAT-76 low metallic anti-tank mine. This was developed in the late 1960s, early 1970s, went into production sometime in the mid 1970s. Now this mine was an improvement of the MAT-62. Both mines, the 62 and the 76, used the same fuse, which is the P62 pressure fuse. Now this mine was the primary Romanian anti-tank mine up into the end of the Cold War. Near the end of the Cold War, they took this mine, did more improvements on it, and they created the MAT-87. And reportedly, there's very few differences between the 87 and the 76. Most of the improvements appear to be with the fuse, which, from reports from Ukrainian sappers, these fuses were not produced very well, and they've been having huge issues with them. Now, this mine is being used by or has been encountered in Angola, Iraq, Kuwait, Liberia, Mozambique, Zambia, Ukraine, Romania, and Iran. Now, some of the technicals on this: it is 12 1/3 inches in diameter. Height to the top of the fuse is 5 1/3 inches. Without the fuse, the mine body itself is a little over 3 inches in height. Weight is 22 pounds, of which 21 pounds is the explosive filler. And the explosive filler is cast TNT. Now the body of this is TNT, and it's coated with a mixture of fiberglass and resin. And then once that hardened, they went through, painted them green. There are no secondary fuse wells for an anti-handling device on these mines. However, it has been noted that Romanian troops were told during the Cold War to, if they needed to booby-trap the mines, just take a knife, make a fuse well in the side of the mine or in the bottom, or use some other type of booby-trap device with this mine to prevent enemy deminers, meaning NATO troops, from removing them during time of war. Now, the fuse for these, as I said, is the P62 pressure fuse, and it takes a minimum of 440 pounds to crush this pressure fuse and set it off in ideal conditions. This pressure fuse is essentially a copy of the Russian MVP-62 pressure fuse. Now, in order to get this pressure fuse to work, you need a separate detonator, which is the CD11R. Now, there are notes that the fuse wells on these are the same, or at least similar to what is used on the Russian TM62 mine series. This is kind of a copy of the Russian TM62 Alpha, if I remember correctly, which was the just pressed explosive version of the TM62 series mine. These mines come 4 mines to a crate, and depending on when they were manufactured and the factory it came from, they can have the fuses installed on the mine like you see here, or they were wrapped in plastic on the ends of the crate here, so that the sapper didn't have to worry as much about breaking the fuses. Each crate also came with 1 arming wrench. The CD11R detonators were packaged separately. They did not come with the mines. Now, I do have 2 versions of installation instructions here, and also 2 versions of removal instructions. I have the instructions that the Romanians had for them, but I also have a improved version, a safer version of installation and removal, which is done by the Ukrainian troops. And the reason for that, the fuses. Reportedly, these fuses were made with substandard plastic. This is even noted by EOD and deminers that when they come across these in a desert, the plastic gets so brittle that it doesn't take much to set them off. And what they have problems with in Ukraine is when they're arming these, their little plunger here has a tendency to fail and set off the detonator as it's being screwed into the mine, setting off the mine in the sapper's face. So, first off, we'll do the Romanian instructions. First, you're going to go through, you're going to inspect the mine, you're going to inspect the fuse, and you're going to inspect the detonator. Make sure all is serviceable, especially pay attention to the fuse. If it is cracked, if it is look like it is failing, there's problems with that fuse, replace it with another fuse. It's actually been noted that in a pinch you could take a smaller anti-personnel mine, put it inside the fuse well here to substitute for a P62 fuse. Everything passes inspection. You're going to, according to the Romanian instructions, put the P62 fuse onto the mine without the detonator, package them all up or set them in the vehicle, transport them to the location where they're supposed to get them placed. At the area where it's supposed to get them placed, you're going to prep that area. If you're going to bury these, you're going to dig the hole to a little bit past the top of the mine here, because you want a little bit of this fuse sticking over the top of the ground. At this point, you're going to unscrew the fuse. You're going to put the mine in place, unscrew the fuse from the mine. You are then going to screw the detonator into the plunger here on the bottom of the fuse. You are then going to screw the fuse onto the mine, and using the wrench here, tighten it on just a little bit to try to cut down on moisture getting inside the mine. Once the fuse is in, you're going to remove the safety clip, and then you're going to press the trigger and camouflage the mine. That's where issues come in. Ukrainians are finding that when they get to that step of actually arming the mine here, pressing the trigger, there are issues with the plastic here failing, especially they believe the wedges inside that hold the firing pin in place under tension from the spring. They press the trigger, this immediately shoots down into place, the wedges fail, the spring pushes the striker forward, setting off the detonator in the sapper's face. So what the Ukrainians have come up with, you go through, do your inspections, transport them to the area. Once you get to the area, you're going to prep the location where the mine's going to go. Once you're at that location, you are going to inspect the fuse again. Make sure it is not cracked. Make sure it is not damaged. So you're going to remove it from the top of the mine, and you're going to have to pay attention on the inside here. Is there anything that's damaged that it looks like it's going to fail? If it passes inspection on the inside, at this point is when you're going to remove the safety clip, press the trigger, and see if the striker activates. There's no detonator on it at this point. If it does not activate, at that point is when you're going to screw in the detonator and then very carefully screw the fuse into the top of the mine, tightening it with the wrench, and then camouflage. That reduces the chance of the mine detonating prematurely in the face of the installing squad. Now, removal of the mine. What you're going to do, you're first going to check the area, see if there's any protective mines or booby traps. You come across those, neutralize them as you come across them. You get the area cleared, you're going to locate the mine, and that's going to be extremely difficult because there is very, very little metal inside this mine. The only metal is the springs inside here and the striker, and reportedly the metal that they used is not easily picked up by metal detectors. That is from EOD and demining sources. But once you locate the mine, you're going to uncover it, and you're going to check the sides and underneath for anti-handling devices or booby traps. If you come across an anti-handling device or a booby trap on the mine, stop what you're doing. Do not continue with removal. Destroy the mine in place. If no anti-handling devices or booby traps are encountered, at that point, use the wrench to loosen up the fuse very carefully, because you do not know how much the plastic has degraded. Get it loosened up with the wrench, and then very carefully unscrew that fuse from the top of the mine. Now at this point, according to the Romanian instructions, you will have the little trigger plunger here facing, or this, it's not the trigger plunger. This post here towards you, you're going to hold it, take your two thumbs, and you're going to force the plunger over to the side back to the stowed position. Now while it's doing that, it's going to reset the trigger on the top of the fuse. Once it is locked into position, that is when you're going to remove the detonator from the plunger, flip it over, reinstall the safety clip, screw the fuse back into the mine, and turn everything into the mine dump for later reuse. Now there is a Ukrainian modification to this also, to make it just a little bit more safer, just in case that plastic fails. So once you go through, do the check the area, the locate, anti-handling device checks, you go through, you remove the fuse from the top of the mine. At this point, very carefully, you're going to unscrew the detonator from the plunger. Set that to the side. Then, with this stud towards you, use your two thumbs, press the plunger back into the stowed position, hopefully without breaking anything. Then flip it over, install the safety clip, and install the fuse back on the mine. Turn everything in for later reuse or disposal. The Ukrainians have said the mines themselves are really good. They're really effective for taking out the treads on tanks and taking out lightly armored vehicles and cargo trucks. But their biggest issue is the P62 fuse, and the Ukrainians really recommend to their troops, to their sappers, to use either an MVZ62 clockwork fuse from a TM62 mine, or use an MVP62 pneumatic fuse from a TM62 Papa 3 mine. So there you go. All the information I could come across on the Romanian MAT-76 low metallic anti-tank mine. Romania has sent huge numbers of these to Ukraine, so it is a guarantee that large numbers of these have ended up on the international arms black market, and they can appear anywhere around the world at any time. So that's why you need to be aware of this mine. Now, for all my engineer brothers and the Patriot Militia movements, always remember, essayons.